Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and good morning to our EAS friends across the country. Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast, presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I'm your host and president of NAPS Branch 32, Robert Wakefield. That's right. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you. Got a great show lined up for you today, and it's going to start when we pour that first cup. You know, banking should be made simple. That's why Ollie, the Nashville Post Office Credit Union's virtual assistant, is here, ready to help 24/7. Need quick answers? Ollie delivers secure, instant solutions right at your fingertips. No wait times, no hassle, just smart banking made easy. Whether you're managing your finances, exploring loan options, or just need guidance, Ollie is always ready to assist, wherever and whenever you need. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our first cup today, I want to talk about something that I have talked about before. That's right. In this episode of A Can of Stoppit, Part 3, we're going to talk about a subject that I have brought up back in December in the series of Taking Care of Yourself. But I'm bringing it up again today because I have talked to many of the EAS employees right now, and they all tell me the same thing, or most of them do. You're not taking your lunch. You're working right through it. And we're going to talk about that today and how important it is. Now, I get it. This workload that you guys are under right now is relentless. The deadlines are tight. Sometimes it just feels easier just to power through and get stuff done. But here's the reality. When you skip lunch, you're working for free. And let's be honest, none of us signed up for that. Now, the U.S. Postal Service has a policy on lunch breaks, so let's talk about the rules here. According to the ELM, Section 432.33, USPS employees should not work more than 6 consecutive hours without a meal or rest period of at least 30 minutes. Did you catch that? This is their policy. This is the Postal Service's rule on when you are to take a break after 6 consecutive hours. For EAS employees, your daily work schedule includes a non-paid lunch period. When you get your Form 50, it has your hours on there. Let's just say 6 to 3, with a break from 11 to 12. Guess what? From 11 to 12, you're not getting paid. And that's why this is so important that I talk about this, because the Postal Service expects you to take a break. It's built into your schedule. If you skip it and you work through it, you're just undermining your own workload. But you're also setting unrealistic expectations for what can be accomplished in a day. Well, you think about it. If I've got you scheduled for 8 hours of work and you're doing it in 9, well, I can squeeze in another hour. I can squeeze in about 10 more telecons. I'm being silly here, but you know what I'm saying. And this is why lunch breaks are non-negotiable. And here's some reasons that I discovered when I was putting this together. Your productivity depends on it. Skipping lunch doesn't make you more efficient. It makes you less effective. This break helps you reset. It helps you refocus. It returns you to a more productive part of your day than you were before. The second thing about lunch breaks being non-negotiable is because of your health. Long hours without food or rest lead to stress, fatigue, and burnout. Taking a break is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Number 3, you're setting the standard. Since you are an EAS employee and you consistently work through the lunch, it just normalizes unhealthy work habits. Taking a break shows leadership in a work-life balance. Let me say that again. Taking your break shows leadership in your work-life balance. Now, there's a myth, and it is just that, just a myth, that you're getting more done. Some managers think that when they skip lunch, they can squeeze in more work. Well, here's the truth. Burnout leads to mistakes, it leads to inefficiency, and it leads to lower morale. Postal Service doesn't need those things. The Postal Service needs strong and focused leaders, not exhausted ones. So the impact of skipping your lunch is really amazing. I talked to a postal supervisor recently, and he was overworked, and many of you are. But when I spoke to him, he admitted that his skipping the lunch was a habit. You know, at first he thought, well, it's okay. So it's kind of a way to stay ahead. But over time, the exhaustion starts setting in. And then the mistakes start creeping into the reports. And, your relations with your employees become strained and everything suffers. So that's the overwork cycle. And then you have the burnout cycle. Another EAS employee shared that skipping lunch led to longer work days. Well, yeah. Without a break, they felt drained by mid-afternoon, which means when you're that tired at mid-afternoon, how long is it going to take you to do a report that usually takes you 5 minutes? You're not any more efficient. Now, studies have shown that taking breaks improves your focus and productivity. And when you step away from work, your brain gets a chance to reset. And that simply means when you return, you're more alert, you're more creative, and you're better at problem solving. Think about it. Professional athletes take breaks between plays. Musicians such as myself, world traveler, yeah, right. We take breaks. We pause between sets. We need to have a break. Everybody needs to reboot. So why should EAS employees be any different? Well, let's be clear about this. This is the part that I want stopped. I want you to stop it. If you skip your lunch, you are working for free. You're not getting paid for that extra time. You're just not. You're reducing your own efficiency and you're setting unrealistic expectations about your workload. As a matter of fact, you're falsifying your time. What really took you 9 hours to do, you're saying you're doing it in 8. And it's just not a good thing to do. So stop it. Just stop it. So how do you fix it? How do you make lunch breaks a priority? Well, number one, you schedule it. You block out a time for lunch just like you would for a telecon or a Zoom meeting. And you treat it as non-negotiable. I'm not taking my phone with me. I'm not taking my work with me. If you're in the plant, I'm turning off my radio. I'm stepping away from the desk. I'm not going to eat at the workstation. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to sit in the break room. I'm going to physically remove myself from my workplace because my brain needs to reset. And if you had a brain like mine, you would know what I'm talking about. The other thing, if you are leadership in this way, it encourages others to take their breaks. You're setting the example. When employees see their supervisors taking lunch, they feel more comfortable doing the same. And it's just good for a healthy work culture. So, some final thoughts. Here's the bottom line. Your lunch break is your time. It's not optional. It's not a favor. And it's definitely not something you should feel guilty about. The Postal Service has rules in place for a reason, and those rules say you deserve a break. So next time, if you think you're going to be working through lunch, remember, you're working for free. You're not doing yourself and you're not doing anybody else any favors. So on this episode, on your lunch break, if you're working through your lunch, stop it. Stop it today and schedule your time away from your desk for an hour. It's just the right thing to do. Lunch breaks matter, so you should take them. And that's going to wrap it up for the first cup. Let's go ahead and pour that second cup. Summer is here, and what better way to celebrate and to beat the heat than with a delicious serving of ice cream? That's right, Brian Wagner, did you hear that? We are excited to announce that we will be offering ice cream every day throughout June, July, and August to continue our celebration of 100 years of service. Stop by and treat yourself to a little taste of summer and enter for a drawing for a Ninja Creamery machine at the end of our celebration. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union. People helping people since 1925. So for our second cup, I thought I would share a little bit of postal history as far as my career is concerned. And it was really a cool moment when I was the postmaster at the Burns, Tennessee Post Office. That was my very first postmaster's job. And what I enjoy doing as a postmaster, I enjoy the history of the office. And so I would nose around and try to find a little bit about what happened at that office, who all the postmasters were before me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then there would be those times where I would go on eBay and just look at postal memorabilia. And so on this particular day, this was back in, let's see, what's the year of that? Back in 2009. In 2009, I was just looking on eBay under some postal memorabilia, and before I logged off, I typed in the words, Burns, Tennessee. And when I hit enter, something unbelievable happened. My heart stopped because there was an envelope that was addressed to G.W. Tidwell, Burns Station, Tennessee, and it was dated June 16th, 1874. So this was for sale, so I immediately bought it. $10, and that was right there on its way to the post office, and I was so proud that I actually bought this piece of history. So when it came in, let me make mention of this. The first post office that ever opened in Burns, Tennessee was June 27th of 1866. So this is 1874, just a few years after it opened. So here we go. The post office was 8 years old when this letter arrived, and I paid $10 for it, and it came in, and like a proud dad, I took that envelope and showed it to my employees. Now, here's the cool part. I showed it to my carriers there, and one of the ladies there says, "Who is that addressed to?" I said, it's addressed to G.W. Tidwell. She said, "I can't believe it. I just can't believe it." I said, "What?" She said, "That is my great-great-grandfather." I was stunned. Could not believe that really happened. But it did. And that just goes to, that's just a feel-good story about how the Postal Service has been around for a long, long time. And I encourage you to explore the history of your office. And maybe, just maybe, if you go on eBay, you might find a piece of history yourself. So that concludes the second cup. Thank you so much for listening to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. Really do appreciate you listening. Now, you know what to do. You have to share, you have to like, you have to subscribe to this podcast. I want this podcast to grow beyond measure, and I can't do that without you. So thanks so much for listening today. I'm Robert Wakefield, and remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupofJoe@gmail.com.